industrial engineering training, supervisory training, and quality controllers training. Few of our unique training programs under middle management are training of trainers for operators, non-operators and checkers, cost per minute implementation, and establishment of performance monitoring system. We are currently working with 25 clients serving more than 40 brands located around 8 countries. Also, our mentionable collaborations are with International Trade Center and USA. Now let's look into the results we have achieved. Skilift Consulting has successfully created 415 trainers, 18,776 workers, 168 supervisors, 220 industrial engineers, and 87 quality controllers. Our success percentage for improvement of existing factories over 25 clients is 92, and for new and module-based over 42 programs is 100. Apart from management consulting, Skilift, along with Honeywell Creations, have stepped foot into a brand new venture, Skilift, that is training digitization, where you can access all our training materials, learn at ease at your location through our online website, which is cost effective. Our training materials include cost per minute, quality management system, training of trainers for operators and non-operators, industrial engineering training, supervisory training, quality controllers training, and top senior management training for factory management. To know more details about us, our services, training materials, recent happenings, expert team, our clients, and client testimonials, check out our website at www.skilift.co.in. To collaborate and make a new change, do contact us and we will be happy to serve you. Thank you. Hello everyone. This AV will give you a brief about Skilift Consulting. It is a partnership firm established in India in 2016, engaging in business management consulting for performance enhancement of apparel industries, aiming at efficiency improvement and cost reduction. We expertise in woven garment industries, knitwear industries, and made-ups. Coming to services, we have complete garment factory program and module-based program for garment industries. We offer complete garment factory program for existing factories and new factories, under which our scope of intervention would be from fabric, cutting, sewing, production planning, quality control, quality audit, industrial engineering, maintenance, finishing and packing to dispatch. For module-based, we have middle management training that includes industrial engineering training, supervisory training, and quality controllers training. Few of our unique training programs under middle management are training of trainers for operators, non-operators and checkers, cost per minute implementation, and establishment of performance monitoring system. We are currently working with 25 clients serving more than 40 brands located around 8 countries. Also, our mentionable collaborations are with International Trade Center and USA. Now let's look into the results we have achieved. Skilift Consulting has successfully created 415 trainers, 18,776 workers, 168 supervisors, 220 industrial engineers, and 87 quality controllers. Our success percentage for improvement of existing factories over 25 clients is 92, and for new and module-based over 42 programs is 100. Apart from management consulting,
Hello, everyone. Good evening. One and all here. Thank you for the participation in this wonderful webinar. And then it's pleasure meeting everyone once again over the webinar. This is Nanda Kumar. I'm a managing partner of Skilift Consulting. And then I would be hosting this particular knowledgeable session, and my colleague, Mr. Ramesh, should be the co-host for this particular program. First of all, happy May Day wishes to everyone. Maybe a top, middle, or senior management, whoever it is, we should be proud to say that we are in a working class, and then we should continue our hard work all the time. We always start the session with a positive quote. So I feel in recent times, this is a quote which I loved a lot. So life is not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning how to dance in the rain. So let's dance in this pandemic time in a positive way. So that's what I would like to say. And then let's come to the session. In this pandemic situation, people might be a bit worried or are exploring different ways how we can sustain the business in this difficult time. Few months of lockdown makes us realize one thing, which is nothing is permanent. Entire apparel and fashion industry is completely reviving its structure to adapt to the post-pandemic situation. Everybody is looking how to revive it. But at the same time, we can consider this as an opportunity to everyone to reinitiate your operations with best practices across your entire supply chain so that you'll be highly competitive and profitable in the market. In this context, our division of Skilift Consulting, Skilift, is organizing the journey towards business excellence, where allied speakers across the apparel fraternity would be invited to share their knowledge. This is the first season. We hope it should be a great interest to everyone. We plan to organize this every 3 months. We would like to cover a wide range of topics, right from process, people, sustainability, e-commerce, and so on. We really hope it would be an eye-opener for everyone, which in turn definitely will give you a great confidence to you, and it will boost your business to the next level. I would like to introduce the distinguished allied speakers we have for today's webinar. Mr. Devadas is an expert in implementing organizational excellence. He will be talking about the overview of organizational excellence along with lots of case studies. Then we have Mr. Paul Collier, is a well-known face in international arena who have developed more than 1,000 professionals in fashion industry. So he would be talking on how factory managers should act as a leader and innovator. And finally, our distinguished guest, Mr. Keerthi, the person who has a complete and thorough knowledge on industrial engineering, I can say, would be discussing how to increase the labor efficiency in post-pandemic era. Then he's having a tool also, so he will be explaining how it can be used on that. So I would like to welcome all the speakers, and then thanks for sparing your time in this difficult situation. I would like to give few details about this particular session. We have almost more than 140 or 150 registrations, but we restricted to 109 by planning to have only the top or senior people for this particular session. And then the representations are from around 74 companies. From 9 countries. That includes India, in Africa, it's Ethiopia, and Kenya, and some Eastern European countries also. So the participants would be only the senior and top management of the apparel industry. If somebody's link has been broken during the webinar, feel free, you can go to the YouTube Skilift Consulting page where you can access the live session also in case of any difficulties. Few things, yes, we allowed certain time in answering the query raised by the panel, by the participants. So please post your query in the Q&A box, which would be available on the bottom of your screen. Due to the time constraint, we will pick up only 2 selective questions, and then the speakers would be addressing answers to you. And then, of course, please share your feedback so that we can improvise when we are moving further. With this introduction, with this small brief about this particular session, I would like to introduce our first speaker, Mr. P.M. Devadas. He is the founder of Efficiency. It's a consulting organization in India. He is a former vice president and Head Operational Excellence, Sustainability and Industrial Engineering at Aditya Birla Fashion and Retail Manufacturing. He has almost more than 35 years of experience in many multinational corporates, especially in textile and apparel. He is a lead assessor for Operational Excellence Aditya Birla Group, done assessment in large manufacturing units in India, China, Europe, Indonesia, and South Korea. His expertise not related only in textile and apparel. He has done assessment in cements, aluminum, chemicals, and carbon black businesses also. He has carried out business excellence assessments for CAA, Confederation of Indian Industry, and he got Ramakrishna Bajaj National Quality Award also. Of course, the good thing is he's a visiting faculty and jury member for NIFT and engineering colleges, so that many of the students are getting benefit of his knowledge. So with this small introduction, I would like to invite Mr. Devadas to deliver your session. Sir, please, sir.
I'm sorry about that. Thank you, Mr. Nanda Kumar. Am I audible? Thank you, Mr. Nanda Kumar. The screens are actually partially blocking my presentation.
That is fine, sir. People can move their screen on their convenience, sir. No problem. You can just.
Right. Nanda Kumar has given a introduction about me, so I'm not getting into that. Of the 35 years, I had spent 10 years in textile industry and 25 years in apparel industry. And the last 10 years of me was with the excellence department. So driving excellence journey in our own organizations. So I thought, let me share a bit of that to our organizations which are doing great business in India. Let me ask a question. When is the last time someone told you that you have done a good job? Maybe yesterday, it may be last week, it may be the last month. But whenever it is, you felt good, you felt charged up, you felt you wanted to do more of that. So what happens when you repeat the performance again and again? People start recognizing you as an excellent performer, and you are branded as an excellent performer or excellent achiever. Now think about an organization where everyone starts performing in a better way, in an excellent way. Obviously, the results of the organization will register new records. The stakeholders start recognizing the organization as someone who is doing great, and they may register it as a one-time achievement. But if the organization repeats the performance again and again, the organization is called an excellent organization, and the stakeholders expect you to repeat the performance year after year. So the point which I am highlighting is here that excellent organizations achieve, sustain best-in-class performance. The word best-in-class is used because the business you are representing different size, different the nature of business you do. So you are always compared with a business which is almost equal in size with you to get a fair comparison. Now let's look at how excellent organizations differ from others. They grow their business year after year. They make profit year after year, unless a natural calamity or COVID what we are facing today comes. In this kind of situation, every organization get hit. They meet their target most of the time, often exceeded. They measure quality in Six Sigma levels, not in percentage what we used to do in the last century. Their cost of quality levels will be about 2%, whereas most of the industries are ranging at around 25 to 30%. Equipment availability greater than 98%, efficiency levels greater than 90%, very low absenteeism, very low labor turnover. They take care of the customers, supplier, employees, measure their satisfaction, and continuously keep on improving. Everyone in the organization is part of an excellence journey and a continuous improvement journey. They are good innovators. They anticipate the business risk in the environment, and they make mitigation plans ready. I've given a screenshot of Six Sigma rating and the level of percentage, which you can see, I believe. See, an organization which is registering a 1% defect is almost producing 10,000 defects per million opportunities. So the moment we start measuring in percentage, people see that 1% or a 0.5% or a 2% as a small figure. But the moment you convert that into defects per million opportunities, you see it's a big number, and you have a long way to go. An organization which is operating at a 1% level, they are less than a 4 Sigma company. So it's a journey which takes time to progress further to reach your 6 Sigma. Now let's look at how do they do that. Most of them adopt an excellent journey framework. I'm sure some of the companies who are joining here have an experience of this. There are many business models available, business excellence models available in internationally. To name a few, Malcolm Baldrige Excellence Framework, EFQM, European Forum for Quality Management Excellence Model. Countries like Australia, Singapore, or Japan has their own models. In India, CII and Exim Bank conducts a Business Excellence Award annually. IMC and RBNQA conducts an award. A correction in what Mr. Nanda told, I'm not a recipient of an award, I am an assessor of the award. So to add that. Corporate organizations like Aditya Birla and Tata have their own excellence model, which are largely derived from this EFQM or Malcolm Baldrige model. All these excellence models work on a principle of radar or PDCA. So the organization decide what result they want to achieve, be it in production, quality, or sales target, or whatever that. You decide what result you want to achieve, which you will be arriving at with a comparison with your opportunities, with benchmarking. And once the result is achieved, you make a plan for that. You make an approach. And the approach is deployed successfully in the organization. Result starts coming, and you do a continuous refinement and assessment and refinement to do the course corrections. In an organization, all processes should have SMART KPIs. SMART here is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound KPIs. All KPIs to be measured in terms of trend, target, comparison, and benchmark. You can benchmark the company of your choice, because you will be always comparing, aspiring to benchmark someone. So you can choose that. All KPIs to be reviewed periodically at fixed interval. This can happen at department level, at unit level, at corporate level. The result is that these structured reviews will make you do the course corrections and lead you to improvements. The models is very briefly explained here. It has mainly 3 parts, which are called enablers, processes, and results. Enablers are something which is the responsibility of the leadership. So the leadership has to set the vision for the company, the target for the company, the journey the organization want to take in the coming years, what products you make, and what is your business area, what kind of volumes you do. So you decide, the leadership decide that, and you make the strategic plan for that. So at unit level in a manufacturing organization, they start deploying the strategy which is already decided by the leadership. Coming to the processes section, you can see all the processes associated with manufacturing. You have work environment, infrastructure and asset management, supply chain management, customer experience management, quality management, people management, information and knowledge management, systematic improvement, technology management. So all what we do in a manufacturing organization is a part of this model. All these processes work on the PDCA model, and all these processes have results. That's the 40% of the weightage goes to the result. An excellent organization has continued, sustained, progressive improvements. Coming back to the leadership, the role of leadership is to develop the vision, mission, values. Some of you have already done this. The leadership decides how the organization has to move, leading by examples, empowering people in supporting, facilitating, motivating. You do the SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis is strength, weakness, opportunities, and threat. In the table right side, you can see the organization look at the external environment and find what are the opportunities available and what are the threat available. At the same time, the organization also has strength and weaknesses. So where you have a strength and an opportunity waiting for you, you leverage your strategies. And where you have a strength, and wherever there is a threat, you collaborate partnerships. And where you have a weakness and there is an opportunity waiting, you need to build the strength, build the capabilities. It may be technology, it may be quality, it may be your product development, it may be your flexibility. So it depends on your business. And where there is a weakness and there is a threat anticipated, you have to have mitigation plans. So with this, the enterprise plan about the risk management, identify risk associated with all functions, ensure effective controls are put through, and then considering all this, you make your strategy plan, which is deployed by the unit level or the manufacturing level management in the organization. Let's look at the vision mission of few great companies. Google says to provide access to world's information in one click. And Tesla says to create the most compelling car company by driving transition to electric vehicles. So your vision is related to the business you do, in what way you want to do and what you want to achieve, which is a leadership responsibility. This is a shot of the Aditya Birla vision to become a premium conglomerate with market leadership across businesses, delivering superior value to the stakeholders. And the mission is to deliver superior value to the customers, stakeholders, employees, and society. And they passionately follow 5 values: integrity, commitment, passion, seamlessness, and speed. So, this shows what the organization is to do before you start an excellent journey. As I said in the processes covers a lot, but due to the limited time, let's focus into the shop floor specific processes, which is work environment, asset management, systematic improvement, quality management, and people management. I'm not getting into the other related areas, which is work environment. This talks about mainly 2 aspects of the shop floor. One is an organized workplace. Sorry. Second is the environment, health, and safety. The famous quote, you know, a place for everything, and everything is in this place. So you need to organize your workplace starting from the entrance, your shop floor, your utility area, any area what is in your premises need to be very systematically arranged. Includes your bookshelves, coming up to the drawers of your table. So the 5S refers to sort, set in order, shine, standardize, and sustain. Now, why should a company do that? One, it's giving a good morale to the people. You are entering a world-class organizations. Your energy is charged up. The entire organization is having a positive energy. Apart from that, you also get higher productivity, reduced defects, lesser WAP, reduction in waste, reduced accidents, and the employees have a high morale and pride. I know some of you have already have a system in place. Your factory need to be a visual factory. Whatever happens in the factory should be known to everyone. Your KPI results have to be displayed in a place where everyone can see it, so they can see the trend of your production, trend of quality, trend of attrition, cost. Everything has to be visually available in the factory. You need to have all signages. You need to have all your visual, statutory, regulatory, or even color coding, which is done in the factory, the pipelines. You need to celebrate successes, whether it is small or big. Celebrate it. Have some pictures. So it should be a visual treat when you enter the factory, because all this visual communication pass on a lot of message to the employees, as well as when visitors come to your factory, they see how your organization is performing. You need to have systems for everything, including waste management. The 3 R's of waste management: reduce, reuse, and recycle. So you have systems to list out, like in apparel industry, we normally have chindi, n-bits, paper, plastic, cartons, metal, food. So you need to have a process where you very clearly declare, are you recycling it or are you reusing it? Some of the things like cartons, etc., are reusable. There are cases where people have identified the surplus CAD papers and they converted that into writing pads. So these are the things which, when you sensitize people with the waste, they come out with a lot of ways of reducing these wastes. So you should have systems of segregating hazardous, non-hazardous waste, processing your food waste, which can be converted into manure. You need to have a good hygiene system inside the factory, which includes common areas, shop floor, canteen. You need to sensitize your people about personal hygiene, because as we know that most of our workforce, the workers are coming from economically weaker section. So they need to be sensitized about personal hygiene, how to groom their nails, how to dress, the hygiene habits. So all those becomes your responsibility, so that the hygiene is not only in the company, it is in their homes also, because an employee who is affected by some diseases, when he comes to a factory where thousands of people are sitting, he can spread that. The recent COVID itself is a classic example. There are organizations who have designed the standards for their toilets. They have rating systems. You can see the lady who maintained the bathroom, when she get a green, a 5-star, you can see the smile in her this thing. So the user start rating that, so which itself as a system, motivate her to do better things. You need to have systems for monthly hygiene audit, water quality testing, ventilation audits, illumination audits. So all these things are to be put as a system and periodically monitored. Most of the organizations do health-related things like occupational check, health check, personal hygiene, etc. You need to give awareness to the employees about the oncoming spread of a seasonal disease. You need to have systems for taking care of the ergonomics, because our operators, they sit or stand in a place and spend 8 to 10 hours. So it is the responsibility of the organization to have an ergonomics system. So the principles of ergonomics need to be applied: maintain neutral position, work in the comfort zone, allow movement, allow for movement and stretching, reduce excessive force, reduce excessive motion, minimize contact. So when you go through this, you can see that your industrial engineers and the maintenance team and even your health department can do a lot of things. So reducing excessive motion and excessive force becomes one of the priorities for the industrial engineers, where you get other added advantage of productivity improvement. There are organizations who even have designed an ergonomic exercise where the entire employee stands up and do a stretching exercise. Safety on high priority. No harm to the employee. That need to be your target for the organization. You need to look at what are the PPEs required for your organization. Sensitize the people, give training, awareness to them, and it is the responsibility of the organization to ensure that employee wear a PPE and no harm, no injury, whether it is major or minor or even a small injury should not occur. So you need to have systems in place to identify what are the kind of small injuries happening. It may be a needle prick, it may be a skid and slip. So the engineers identify the areas, they look at the root cause, they find out the ways to eliminate the root cause.
Sir, 20 minutes finished?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm moving to asset management. When you compare with an automobile or a heavy engineering industry, the kind of equipments what we have are relatively simple. We have sewing machines, we have a boiler, we have a compressor, things like that. So most of the maintenance team, if you look at, they know how to do a breakdown maintenance. A lot of companies practice preventive maintenance, but concepts like predictive maintenance, maintenance prevention, etc., are relatively new or even not known to most of our companies. So these are areas where we can look at how to prevent a maintenance by anticipating the condition of the equipment, or it can be like, for example, a hidden cable. So we can do thermography to find out what is the condition of the cable. A hidden pipeline, you can understand. So like that, for every equipment, there are things which you can do to identify the deterioration status of that and prevent a breakdown. One of the things which I highlight here is that, see, if you look at our maintenance team, almost 60% of their time, they will be doing small tending work, small repair jobs. Now, if this job can be transferred, or if the employee can be trained to do this small repair, the maintenance team is freed up from doing this smaller jobs, and they get a lot of time to focus on higher breakdowns. They can do maintenance cost reduction activities. They can do low cost automation. They can come with the gadgets for improving productivity. They can design your stackers, workstation improvements. They can spend time on finding out what is the technology coming in the world, which technology will improve productivity, which technology will help us in reducing the number of operators required. So our maintenance team need to be freed up by starting self-maintenance. There is an accepted way of doing self-maintenance in the engineering organization, which started in Japan. So there are 7 steps to that. Considering our employee base who are relatively not technically qualified, because if you look at an automobile, most of them are ITI or diploma engineers, whereas in our case, they don't have a technical education background. So we have found out that the first 3, perform initial cleaning, countermeasures, establish cleaning inspection standard, and perform general equipment inspection. Up to this is possible, and there are organizations who has already implemented it. It starts with training. The maintenance team give a training to the operators, which part to be cleaned, which are the oiling points, what are the sensitive parts which they should not be touched. And they are trained to understand the equipment by look, listen, and feel. So when you look at that, you see a powder or something like that. So that means some part is already deteriorating. The unusual sounds can be listened. The vibrations can be felt. So the user is trained how to identify an abnormality, and the cleaning inspection schedules are put, and organizations normally create a schedule which is spanning, that means one into different zones. So one zone in a day. So they are provided with what the cleaning brushes, the tweezers to remove the thread, the cloth for cleaning, and each zone, the ownership is given to one member in the maintenance team and one member in the production team. So the operators, when they do the cleaning, they are actually doing an inspection. So when you do an inspection, you find out a defect, and that is the opportunity to correct. For example, if a loose screw, if it is not tightened at that time, that may lead into falling off of a part, which will finally turn into a bigger breakdown. So a stitching time saves a lot. So when the cleaning is happening, the operator will look for unusual vibration, sound, or any powder or dust which is coming into that. So the responsibility of cleaning, inspection, lubrication, tightening can be moved to the operator, which will take only about, because normally everybody do a cleaning in the morning, but they don't look into the other part of that. This is the time where a lot of abnormalities related to the machines can be found out. Some of them they can remove, for example, tightening a screw or a nut can be done by the operator. What cannot be eliminated by them has to be escalated to the maintenance team. I'm not spending much time on the preventive maintenance because a lot of organizations have that either in the form of a printed maintenance schedule or computer-aided maintenance management system. So I'll go beyond this. So preventive maintenance, most of the machinery equipment manufacturers recommend a preventive maintenance. So you follow that. And whatever breakdown happens, the data need to be analyzed because that is the most important thing. Most of the time, people do a breakdown or a maintenance and the data is not collected. These data, for example, it may be a particular equipment which is failing, or it may be a particular part of the equipment which is failing, or it may be a particular operator which is causing the difficulty. So these informations will help you in doing a YY analysis or to a higher level, a fishbone diagram or an FMEA, which will guide the maintenance team to do a removal of the root cause, which will help you in ensuring healthy life of your equipment, which will reduce the breakdown time, and your maintenance team can actually focus on bigger things. Another point to tell here is that systematic improvement by all organizations have layers of people, operators, supervisors and engineers, HOD, head of departments and managers, and the senior team. Now, each of them need to be responsible for continuous improvement. For example, the operators, if they are trained in Kaizen, I already mentioned about abnormality identification by them. So if they are trained in Kaizen, they can come out with Kaizen, which will save a lot of minor issues at the shop floor level. Something which is repeatedly happening, the supervisors and engineers can do small problem-solving tools like fishbone diagram, FMEA, etc. And something which is of a higher order and which is demanding the time of the seniors, or something which is affecting the performance of a department, inter-department, that need to be handled by the HODs and managers. And the senior team of the company can focus on strategic initiatives they need to take for the sustenance of the business. So they don't have to be worried about arranging spares or arranging breakdown, which will be carried out by the people below. Just tell about Kaizen. Every employee is coming to our organization with a thinking power, a good brain. But most of us ask them to use only their limbs, because a sewing machine operator uses his hands and legs and eyes. Most of the time, we don't ask them to think. So a person who is facing a problem might have a solution in his head. The organization should have a system to get that system in the form of a Kaizen. And once the system is in place, you can decide monthly themes like quality improvement, waste reduction, production, cost reduction, safety, whatever is that, it's up to that. So what is the pain area the organization is facing, we can focus on that. Just to show you about a simple Kaizen, this person is packing oranges in a bag. Now, industrial engineers, we want more productivity because this is not sufficient. So generally, in a lot of factories, they add an operator. Is this the right way to do that? Because you may get a better production, but your labor cost is going double. So if you give the thinking, if you ask your employees to think about a solution, they may come with very beautiful solutions. And this level of training can give a lot of ideas from the employees. If you have 10,000 employees and if they give a Kaizen, give one Kaizen per month, the unit is generating 12,000 Kaizens in a month, which is a very big number, and we need to tap this opportunity.
So 30 minutes over.
Yes, thank you. So you can also design systems for Kaizen. That means the lowermost layer generate the Kaizen. The supervisors and engineers can evaluate the Kaizen, reward them, and you can also find out what is the benefit of that. You can replicate, for example, a Kaizen done in a particular machine. If you have 100 machines of similar type, you can replicate. The HODs and managers can evaluate the benefit of the Kaizen. It may be productivity improvement, it may be cost reduction, it may be quality improvement, which finally, when you start recording it, it will be a huge amount at the end of the year. So the thinking power of the employee, which is currently untapped, need to be tapped. They need to be motivated to come out with good suggestions and good Kaizens. The difference between suggestion and Kaizen is that suggestion is just an idea told, but Kaizen is something which is implemented, an idea which is implemented. So I would like to classify in that way. You need to have a robust approach for problem solving because you have problems everywhere. So looking at the problem, it may be that you are not meeting a target. It may be that you are not getting the right quality or dissatisfied customer. So if you have a visibility of solution that need to be immediately implemented in the Gemba, and the shop floor team can do that. The officers and managers in the shop floor, they can do that. If you don't have visibility to that, then you need to look at the causes. Are there many causes? Is there assignable causes? You can do simple problem solving tools. A3 is one model which can be used. Almost 70% of your problems can be solved in by the shop floor team. So that leaves only 30% to the senior team. If there are multiple causes and problems of variability, you can adopt a Six Sigma methodology. Few employees of your organization trained in Six Sigma green belt or black belt can help you in doing that. And there may be cases where your process redesign has to be done, where you adopt a Six Sigma DMA/DV. So this is a broad thing which can be utilized in problem solving. Quality management, most of you are doing, taking a lot of effort in getting the quality right. We have tech packs, we have SOP, we have measurement charts, we have work instructions, we have QA team. But then there are times when our shipment are failing. The reason is that most of the problems, we are not finding out the root cause of that. The moment the root cause is found and eliminated, the problem does not reoccur. So data collection again here is very important. You need to have data, which machine, which operator, or which product, or which part of the equipment failed. So the data collection and evaluation becomes very important here. And the quality engineers need to spend more time in analyzing data and coming out with actions which will eliminate the root cause. It can be Kaizens, it can be a modification in the machine. not simply by giving instruction the shop floor to do that, because the worker is an intelligent person. He know how to do that, but we need to have mistake proofing, what the Japanese call as poke. Okay, we need to do mistake proofing in our equipments to prevent a defect. So the quality department, they need to set standards. They need to focus a lot of time in quality improvement opportunities. They also need to look at the supplier quality, the input quality. For example, if a label, we have a machine where we need to attach a label with a 4-side stitch. Machine is there, but because the label size is varying, we are not able to use it. So our quality team need to work with the supplier to get a standard size so that you can use that programmable machine. Cost of quality need to be measured and found out. There are ways to reduce the cost of quality. We may not have to carry out such a huge number of checkers in our organization, because every operation is done by an operator. As an example, when you do a cooking, let's say making chapatis or something, are we putting a checker? No. The person who is cooking the chapati, he herself is doing the inspection. And in apparel industry, most of our employees are women. They are very good in detecting the defect by self-inspection. So we need to think about self-inspection in our factories. A self-inspection, this we need to have a process by which we recognize employees who do not produce defect, like identifying zero defect operator, recognizing them in a public forum. We can have different reward and recognition systems, like providing badges or giving some small gifts, recognizing them in a public forum. So this will be a game changer where our QA team and our quality engineers can focus on bigger things which will eliminate a quality problem. So as we did in maintenance, the smaller regular small things like things have to be transferred to the operators. The journey, the excellence journey is continuous. The entire people of the team has to be a part of that. See, when someone enters the organizations, like I'm not talking about the operator category. I'm talking about the engineers and the shop floor supervision category. Most of them do a lot of firefighting because something went wrong. You go do firefighting. So we need to stop this firefighting habit. The firefighters have to be trained on tools, and their skill has to be improved so that they become a problem solver. So the moment the shop floor problems are solved, we do less of firefighting. So today, if you look at your factory and find out how many days you are doing a firefighting, we need to kill that. We need to convert them into a problem solver. Your senior managers like HODs, etc., they need to become process improvers, and then the still senior people need to become system improvers. This happens in all the processes. Then you have already started your excellence journey. The results need to be recorded. You need to evaluate them for the trend, the target, and you need to compare with your benchmark company. If you know that there is a company which is achieving 95% of efficiency, we need to benchmark them, how to reach them. So this is a continuous journey, and it's quite satisfying. A lot of positivity will come to the organization, and the journey which is regular, and every employee also grow in the process. I wish all the best to all of you. Thank you very much.
So thank you for your excellent speech, and we'll take the question and answer session now. There is a question from yes, Mr. Shankar Anandaraman. His question is related to the cost benefit. So his point is mostly we are calculating only direct cost benefit, cash benefit when it comes to cost. But what is your suggestion to take benefits of customer satisfaction, rework reduction, worker satisfaction, or reduction in lead time? How to take everything into costing? So he's asking your suggestion.
I would say a satisfied customer or supplier or an employee is an asset to the organization. They would be happy to work with you. They would be able to work with you, find out your problem, come out with solutions. And I don't think it is a cost. It has to be seen as an investment, because if you look at your supplier, he is also running a business. He need a customer where you are the customer. So they are also looking for a partnership. They are also looking for a long-term relationship with you. And this kind of healthy relationship will be a win-win situation for both of you. It will not be a cost in the long run. You will realize that, because when a healthy relationship is already established, he will do whatever requirement is necessary for you, and even there may be cost reductions or profit sharing, this kind of arrangement. So relationship building, similarly, a satisfied employee will give an extra mile. He will put an extra effort to achieve a target, and your absenteeisms and attritions will be very less.
Yes, sir. I think I'll repeat the remaining part, sir. He's taking how to take that into account in terms of performance.
Here we need to look at what is the result achieved, because every result, for example, when see satisfaction gives you other advantage. Like for example, you get a good quality material, you get the right delivery, so your stock out issues are not there. So when these kind of things help you in achieving a better production, you get rewarded. So as a measure of satisfaction, we need to look at the KPIs, the measurable KPIs. Is it improving? Because a satisfied employee, if he is not giving a better productivity or better quality, how does it help the organization? Which will come.
Okay, fine, sir. And then final questions I would take. It's a very simple and a very strong question. What would be the basic necessity or requirement to start the operational excellence journey in a structured way?
It's a management will.
It's a question from Mr. Sendil Raj. Yes, sir.
It's a management will. The management has to decide that I need to take my organizations in an excellent way. This need to remain in this universe for last number of this thing. So if the management will is there, everything is possible, because in India or in the world, the information are there or knowledge is there. It is the will. Like a person decide to become a athlete or a fitness freak. So it is the will. The first step you take that, and the results will follow.
Fine, sir. Thank you for the answer, sir. We have a couple of questions, but due to time constraints, we will hold it. Maybe we can answer to them separately. I'll send you the questions through email. But one thing I understood, sir, we cannot compress your entire knowledge in 40 or 45 minutes. I'm really sorry for that. But really, it's a great eye-opener for others, how to start the excellence journey, sir. We are blessed to have you as advisor for our consulting firm. Thanks for an interesting session, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yes, great, guys. Hope everyone enjoyed it. Now I would like to share our next, I'd like to invite our next speaker. He's one of our well-wisher, Mr. Paul Collier. He's an independent consultant from United Kingdom. He's having a career spanning of more than 51 years in the government industries. He performed role in all the areas in government, including industrial engineering, production management, factory management. He has around more than 13 years of experience as a consultant and trainer for a CAPIDB, that is a UK government recognized training board. And as an individual consultant, he is working more than 19 years. He has enormous knowledge in terms of manufacturing practices in North America, North Africa, Middle East, Central and Southeast Asia. He designed and delivered a wide range of training programs that includes production management, quality management, industrial engineering and training of trainers. So with this introduction, I would like to invite our well-wisher, Mr. Paul Collier. Dice is yours, sir, please.
Okay. Right. Hello, everybody. Right. Right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for that, Nanda, Kumar. And thank you for Devadas. That was interesting, and I learned a lot. And I think what I'm going to say really dovetails into some of your points. I'm going to talk about the factory manager. In all my time as a consultant, they're one of my favourite people, probably because I spent many years as a factory manager and I have the utmost sympathy and respect for them. But I want to start off with a couple of what I call them mantras. You can see them on the screen. And the first one says, well, you can see what it says. Every production piece lost is lost forever. Okay. I don't care if you measure production in dollars, rupees, standard hours, garments, you lose it, that hour, through it, some sort of inefficiency, you've lost it forever. You cannot make it up tomorrow. Right? You can't make it up the day after. Once it's gone, it's gone. And the factory manager is crucial in ensuring that you lose as little as possible. And what we have to remember is if we lose a standard hour, so we've lost some production, we've lost 50 garments, 100 garments. Just think of what's attached to that. Probably for every dollar in direct labor, there's $3 to $4 of overhead attached. So you lose any sort of production, you're losing revenue, you're recovering overhead. And I was brought up in the very harsh environment of the UK garment industry in the 70s, 80s, 90s, when you're making for people like Marks and Spencer's on very low margins with required quality levels. And so we had to be effective. Right? But one of the things that was bashed into me is, yes, the company makes a profit, and that's what it's there to do. Do not congratulate yourself that the company's made a profit. What about the profit you didn't make? Because you weren't performing well enough, or you're not performing as well as you can do. And as a factory manager, once again, it was pushed into me. You have to perform as well as possible. And once you hit your target, forget it. Let's move on to the next target, continual improvement. Although in those days, we didn't call it such things. We didn't, we didn't have such things as continuous improvement. It was just do your job. So what I'm going to be looking at today is the factory manager as leader and innovator. Now, I have no intention in this short space of time to try and teach anybody anything. What I hope to do is to provoke thought, provoke people into reviewing and thinking, what are they doing? How can I change? How can I innovate? How can I go forward? So that's really what my objective is today. Because, as I say, now is the right time. Now is the right time to be thinking, reviewing what we're doing, thinking what we're up to. Right? Let's think, reflect, review, and then challenge what we've been doing. I mean, we can't normally have the time to do this, or we should have, but we don't, because in the garment industry, we're that busy chasing around, like I quote an English saying, like a chicken without a head, making sure we get tomorrow's shipments out. We don't have time to sit back and think. Now with the factories closed or dormant, maybe this is the time we have this time. Our subordinates have this time. Maybe that's what we should be doing. So I'm talking about the factory manager. What is a factory manager? To talk a little bit about myself, I was made a factory manager at 24 years of age. Okay. I think that's young, but I only had 40 employees. Mind you, my target, I was told within 12 months I had to have 180 employees. I did it with difficulty and after learning a lot of lessons the hard way. But what is the role of the factory manager? Look at the garment industry. I moved from 40 factory up to 400. Now, by a lot of Indian standards, 400 employees is small. But what's the role of the factory manager? There's no definitive answer because the garment industry is so diverse. That's one of the things I've learned. Nanda Kumar has explained where I've worked, and I've worked throughout the world, and the industry is so diverse. You've got different cultures, different products. Yeah, I say sewing industries, it's what we're talking about. We could be making anything from a parachute through to a man's suit, knitwear. Each of these requires different environments, different production methods, different cultures. So what is the role of the factory manager? Different companies have different cultures. What about the factory size, the location? You have to take into account local culture, company culture. There's no such thing as a definitive role for a factory manager. So we have to, I think, as part of this review, think in terms of what is a factory manager? What do we expect them to do? And this should be part of our review. If there's any company owners or senior directors listening, think exactly what does your factory manager do? Do you know? So let's think about that. I mean, it's the same in the garment industry. It's so diverse. I mean, I digress slightly. When I'm in India, I see and hear lots of people saying, this is the best production system. Right? It's a system I actually disagree with, but maybe I'm a dinosaur. Single piece working, I absolutely loathe it. Right? But it has its place in certain circumstances. But it's not a definitive, this is the way to do it. Depends on your product. It depends on your delivery date. It depends upon other factors as well. I mean, size of the production run. If you're making small quantities, small orders, yeah, go for it. If you're making a stable product, man's formal shirt on a long production, on a long lead time, why would you use it? So it's the same with the factory manager. What's the circumstance? What role should he use? Should he be? Right. So each company, having taken into account all of that I've spoken about, needs to say, what is the scope of responsibilities of that factory manager? Is he just someone that gets the orders out? Or does he take a much bigger role? Right, so what do we know about the factory manager? I know when I was first made a factory manager, get that order out. Hit your shipment date. Okay. And we had a very good incentive scheme, I have to say. We'll talk about incentives later. The companies I worked for in the UK, we had a very good incentive scheme. If you didn't do that, you were out of the door and replaced. A nice positive incentive scheme. I had to do it to cost. When you're making for retailers, as you're all aware, margins are minimal. So you've got to make sure you hit the costs, which comes back to what Mr. Devadas was saying. Yeah. A lot of his business excellence is hitting these things. What do we know about the factory manager? He's got to get it out to the right quality. And that's just accident that it's bottom of the list. I don't mean that in any terms that quality is the least that we have to worry about. To me, one of the best ways I find as a consultant, if I want to improve the productivity of a factory, attack the quality assurance system. Sounds almost crazy, but that's what I would do. So what do we know about the factory manager? Those are his basics. That's what he's got to get out. But there's far more that needs to be done. And how does he do that? Chase around, be a glorified progress chaser, chasing around the orders, making sure things go out? Or, as I learned the hard way, do you actually look at the processes in the factory? Do you lead a review? Do you lead a change management? Do you change innovation? Because every time you improve something, every time you improve a process, you make it easier to get those 4 things out. Yeah. Well, I will talk a bit later, but one of the key ones is if I ever say to a factory manager, it doesn't matter where it is in the world, what stops you hitting your targets? And I almost know the answers before he tells me. He's going to say absenteeism and style change. Well, unfortunately, if I knew the answer to absenteeism, I would have bottled it and retired a multi-millionaire a long time ago. But we're never going to stop absenteeism. Can we look at measures to minimize it? Can we then look at measures to minimize the impact it has? Style change. We're in the garment industry. We're not making cars for 10 years. We're going to have style change. It's not a new thing. It's been around since the industry. So therefore, can we look at our processes to be better at style change? I quite often go into a factory and I'll see there's a new style coming in and there's a whole production line standing there idle. And what they've done is, because they had to hit the shipment dates of the previous style, everybody was put on to finishing the garment. So 30 operators are suddenly finished. Then they're all sitting there waiting for the next one to come in. And then when they start to put it in, they find a technical problem that should have been found before. So let's look at the processes. If you can improve the processes, you help the factory manager improve on all of those. And those are key, because at the end of the day, it's a shipment that pays the salary. It's a shipment that provokes profit. So if you're a factory manager, and I hope I've got some listening, what's your role? What exactly do you do? Is it clearly defined? I'm not talking about glorified job specifications, but is it clearly defined? What's your role? Do you know your vision? Do you know the vision of the company? And Mr. Devadas was talking about vision. Do you know what it's trying to achieve? Or are you just dashing around hitting tomorrow's shipment? Do you know what you're trying to achieve? Does your vision, what you think the company is trying to achieve, does that agree with that of your superiors? Sometimes you're that lost in the factory, you don't really know the big picture. Well, they don't tell you. Working at odds. So I think what you need, as part of any review, sit down, clarify exactly what's your role, what are you trying to achieve? I was asked, and this is a contentious one, I was asked to speak about how do you motivate a factory manager. My own view is a factory manager should be self-motivated. You don't achieve the status or position of being a factory manager without being very driven from inside. Yeah, I know there's, is it Adler said 50% of motivation comes from within and 50% comes from externally. So a factory manager should be self-motivated. They shouldn't need pushing. Okay. Companies I work for as a factory manager, first one was laissez-faire, let you get on with it. It's what you got to do, just get on with it. Second one, as I said, here's your target, achieve it. If you don't, you're out the door. Third one, mixture of the two. But as I was saying, what they did do was motivated in a different way. And I'll explain that in a moment. One of the problems is if you're going to motivate a factory manager by perhaps targeting performance levels, however they're expressed, it's very difficult to measure performance. Yes, we can measure performance in terms of output, efficiency, absenteeism, labor turnover. But what about some of the softer issues? What if the factory manager is expected to be an innovator? How do we start to measure those? It's a lot more difficult. So therefore, if you're going to try and motivate somebody based on performance, you've got to be very, very good at measuring. And that in itself is difficult. And sometimes I think you can put too much energy into measuring performance rather than trying to improve in performance. This is this presentation is slightly strange for me because as Nanda Kumar said, 51 years, but I am actually retired. And so I've come out of retirement and I'm unaccustomed to doing presentations again. So I'm having to get back into the swing of it. Okay, so if there's any factory managers list watching, they don't like this one I've just put up. Monetary bonus is not the most important. In all my years as a factory manager, I was never offered or expected any form of monetary bonus. And I don't feel that, as I said, the factory manager should be self-motivated. They're a very senior person. Should you be offering them a monetary bonus? As a factory manager, I had this conversation even down to supervisor level. Should I be offering the supervisor a monetary bonus for achieving? So if she's achieving a target, great. She gets a monetary bonus. Style change, where she's working at her hardest, her performance drops and she doesn't get a bonus. Very difficult in these sort of circumstances to put a monetary bonus in. So to me, it's not the most important way of actually motivating a factory manager. Because remember, as I'm saying, 50% of their motivation should be coming from within. 50% have got to be applied. So how can I do it? Now remember, I'm an ex-factory manager, and I like factory managers. If I was an owner, I'd be paying the factory manager that well that he doesn't need to think about a monetary bonus. I would have the factory manager on a very, very good salary. One, obviously keeps him happy. And two, there's one thing I know about the garment industry, and something everybody says, there's always somebody ready to poach. Okay? And if you've got, it's a small industry, even the size of India, the industry is small. Okay? Mr. Devadas, Bangalore, right? And I've spent a lot of time in Bangalore with him. I've spent a lot of time with Mr. Keerthi in Sri Lanka. They're all part of big industries. but it's so the industry itself is small. It's in small sections. One factory in Colombo knows exactly what's happening in another factory. They know. They will know, one company will know if you've got a star factory manager, and they'll offer him more. So pay well. And that's, and people will say, well, I've got to pay, I pay him really well. He's expensive. A good factory manager costs you nothing. A good factory manager, if he's achieving all of your targets and he's improving the profitability of the company and recovering more overhead, his salary pales into insignificance. It's as I've spoken on the last conversation, return on investment. Let's invest in him. Let's pay him well. So to me, where I say the monetary bonus is not the most important, if he's paid that well, then it doesn't actually constitute too much of a problem. Because
20 minutes finished.
One?
20 minutes is finished.
Okay. There's one thing I know about being a factory manager, it's stressful. Right. I could call my wife into here and ask her what she thinks about me and stress when I was a factory manager. It almost did for me. It's stressful. So therefore, he needs support. Pay well, but support. The stressed factory manager needs support. Right? Calling into the office every now and again. How are you? Right? That's a good motivator. Sit with me, sit with him. It's stressful. Once again, though, if the factory manager can be an innovator, because he's allowed to be, and he can improve the processes within the business, then the stress goes down because we're achieving. And stress, it is stressful. I think that's why at the end of the day, factory management is only a limited time span. I said I was 24 when I started as a factory manager. By 40, I'd had enough. I was out of it. Sorry about that. It's decided to go crazy. Excuse me for a moment. There's one thing I know is that technology and me do not work well. Right. I hope we're back online again. Okay, so it's stressful. Engage with the factory manager. Give him a formal review. You should have formal review processes anyway, and include him in the strategy. As I said, the last company I worked for, they paid me well. But one of the biggest motivators was that when I walked in, we had a new owner. And he told me the vision for the company. This is where we're going to go. Right? We're going to ditch all of our chain store production. I'm not interested in it. We're going high quality. Here's your support. Here's every modern machine you need. Here's an updated factory. And we put all of that in. Now we're going up. And that was enough to buy into. Yeah. I'm going back many years now and wholesaling overcoats at $1,000 US. That's where we went to from chain store production. Brilliant. Right, so the factory manager is a leader. The sewing industry, well, sewing industry is a labor intensive. We create, and what we do is we use these people to add value. Fabric comes in, finished garments go out. Right? So we are actually selling labor to our customer. So let's make the best use of our labor. Let's get the best out of them. Right? So the lead and the factory manager, the leader, has to do this. And achievement through use of people. You need a competitive advantage nowadays. And after COVID-19, you're going to definitely need a competitive advantage. How do you achieve it? Not through technology, because if you've got the dollars, you can buy the technology. Anybody can buy it if they've got the money. You can only lose competitiveness by not using technology. Same goes with purchasing fabrics. Same deals are on offer to everybody. The only way you can gain the competitive advantage is how you use people. Through processes, how the systems, getting the most out of your people. And the factory manager as a leader that's his role. He should be looking at how do I get the most out of the people? And so you use your people. Because the second thing says there, the factory manager doesn't know everything. As I said to a group yesterday, if you knew everything, you'd be doing Mr. Modi's job. Right? You don't know everything. Right? You cannot control everything. Depends on the size of the factory. Right? But if it's a small factory, he might be able to control it by force of character, but not on a medium-sized factory or a large factory. So therefore, he's got to use his people, which brings me to the last one. Now, wherever I go in the world, I can turn the television on and I can watch the English Football Premier League. It's everywhere. Right? One of the teams is called Wolverhampton Wanderers. Not a team I follow. They're rivals of my team, but they're obviously from the city of Wolverhampton. And with a name like Wolverhampton, they're obviously, the football team is nicknamed the Wolves. That's obvious, right? And in their stadium, they have a huge banner. And on it, it says, the strength of the wolf is in the pack. Right? In other words, a wolf, they operate better as a pack. The football team operate better as a team. The strength of the factory manager is in his pack, right? His gang, his production managers, his industrial engineers, whoever reports to him. That's his strength. One of the lessons I learned as a factory manager was I was only as good as my production managers and my supervisors, because I couldn't do it by myself. But conversely, they were only as good as I allowed them to be, through development, through giving them opportunities. So the factory manager, I mean, in the wolf pack, you've got an alpha male that leads. In the factory, you should have an alpha male that leads. Sorry if there's any ladies present, an alpha male or female, in case there's any female factory manageresses there. And I've worked with a few, right? So that's the factory manager. He's got to be the leader. He's setting the tone. Right. Now, what sort of management style should he have? Well, as I said, when I had my first factory, I started off with about 40 workers, and it was in a village. And even though we built it up high, it was very relaxed. I knew everybody. They knew me. They called me by my first name. And I knew every operator. I knew most of their father. I knew most of their husbands. I knew a lot of the children. And I could operate in a very relaxed style. The next one, it was very unionized. Everything went by the book. Everything was strict. I had a completely different attitude. I also learned that nice guys finish second. And toughened up. But everything went by the book and agreements, harder, stricter. So you've got to look at your style, what one suits. I'm naturally a relaxed person, but I always made sure I lived about 40 minutes from the factory. So one, so I couldn't be a key holder, and two, I would, in the morning, in that drive in, wind myself up in the second factory. Right, what are my problems? Where am I going to go? And then I would hit somebody when I walked in, let everybody know I was there. On the way home, it was de-stress, take it out on the car. So I got home. So what's your style of management? As a factory manager, you should be thinking that. Is it appropriate? Have you got the right style? How do you motivate your team? Think what I've said about motivation. Think about Maslow, right? And those of you that obviously aren't familiar with Maslow, as Mr. Devadas says, there's plenty of information on the internet. Just go and have a look. Right? Yes, the operator is mostly just motivated by money. Yes, I come in to do a job. Mostly, not always. Some years ago in the UK, we introduced the Investors in People standard, which is about, it's the start of excellence. It's about making sure development and training is appropriate. And one of the things we did, we actually started to put in appraisals, personal appraisals. Well, that's fine for management. We actually did it to the operators.
So 30 minutes over?
Yeah, in a simple manner, in a simple way. Okay. And we found out that a lot of the operators were motivated by far more than money. They wanted to get involved. Okay? And usually the loud-mouthed operator was the frustrated, not the troublemaker. So what's your style? How can you motivate people? Is your factory manager a policy maker or an implementer? Is he just given the rules? Here we are, here's the rules, work by them. Is he allowed to take part in policy as a leader? Does he work with unwritten rules? Are there SOPs, standard operating procedures for everything? If there's not, remember I said this is about review, think, commitment, change. You need standard operating procedures for most things. So I've said the factory manager's got his pack, his gang, right? His team. He's got to think. Now, who exactly reports to him? Right? He doesn't want 20 people reporting to him. Span of control, management span of control says 7 people is ideal. So let's get the structure correct. He doesn't need every supervisor running up to him. Okay? What's his relationship with other disciplines? Okay? How does he work with HR? Now, as I said, the production is what pays the wages, produces the salaries. Right? To me, every other function should be nothing more than a support service for production. Industrial engineering is there to support production. Training is there to support production. Okay? HR. Yes, HR's got its own separate issues, but I often refer to a factory in India where HR had got its objectives and they were tasked with recruiting 60 operators at a time. The fact that the production didn't need 60, or that the training department had only got capability and capacity to train 20 at a time, didn't seem to matter. HR had got its responsibilities, but nobody had joined up thinking that HR should have been there as a support for production. It should have said, how many do you need? Okay, I will now go and recruit them. So industrial engineering, that should be that should come under the factory manager. I'm not going to go into should the quality manager report to the factory manager. That's another topic, and I think that could be very contentious, right? But the quality system should support production. Okay. not be in conflict. So what team does the factory manager have? Who should report to him directly? Who should report to his subordinates? So, and then, as I said, relationship with other parts of the company. Let's very clearly define what their role is. Reporting. Do they achieve target? You know, let's have reports on targets. Who do they report to? Do you have formal meetings? I've sat in many, many formal meetings in the morning in factories. If I was the factory manager, I wouldn't lead them. I'd let one of my subordinates lead it on a pro rata basis. Let's give them a bit of responsibility. Let them think about the data. Now, the factory manager. Do you dash around just achieving targets? Or do you see yourself as a developer of people? Because remember, you can only work through people, and it's people that achieve. If you don't see yourself as a developer of people, why not? I don't have the time. I hear it all the time. I don't have the time. Yes, you do, if you're committed to it. And the better your people are, the more time you'll have. Do you see them as a threat? Yeah. If he knows what I know, he'll want to do my job. Right. Hear that everywhere. Right. Don't care. Yeah. You should be that sure of yourself that he's not a threat. If I train someone, they're going to leave. That's the other one I hear. My answer to that is, so what? Training and developing people is an investment. I'm going to invest time, I'm going to invest money in them. I'm interested on return on investment. Right? If I improve someone, they're going to be better. They're going to do their job better. They're going to give me a better return. So if they work for me 6 months after I've improved them, then they leave, have I got my money back? And this is a key one with, I hear this all the time with sewing operators. People say, I train them and then they leave to go somewhere else. My answer is, don't care. In the time that they work for us, did they give us a return on the investment we put into them? If we did, fine, not an issue. And I would always also say then to the factory owner, the factory manager, you're moaning about training operators, do an audit of your factory. How many of your people came to you trained already? All you're doing is training and throwing into a pot and then taking from the pot. So do you see yourself as a developer? Train people, develop people. If you don't know how as a factory manager, okay, you've identified a training need of yourself to be developed. Let's go and do that. Bring in an outsider. Right? Be sure of yourself. The better your pack, the better you are. So the factory manager's been a developer, he's been a leader, he's an innovator. This is what we want, right? And what I've been saying is, now is, to me, is a good time to start sitting back, reflecting and thinking on all of this, right? And so let's check our procedures. Let's think about our procedures.
So 2 minutes left.
Okay, right. So are our procedures working correctly? Let's involve our team. At the moment, they're all sitting at home. If you're paying them and they've got technology at home, even if it's only a smartphone, you can include them. You can put together plans. And as I said, on one of my key areas is pre-production meetings as just an example of a procedure. Lots of people will say, yes, we do it. Do they? How well do they do it? I would be looking at that. I would be looking at style change. I'd select key areas and issues. And then, as Mr. Devadas was saying, continuous improvement through action plans. And now's the time to do it. And lastly, improvement makes your life easier. The factory manager's life, the better he can improve things, the easier his life becomes. He doesn't have to chase around his tail, finding out if the shipment's going out tomorrow, because it should already be done. The better you are. So just look at things, look at examples. I've said style change, pre-production, two of my key bugbears. The other one, of course, is when I see an industrial engineer working as a factory production manager and not as an industrial engineer, but that can be for another time. That's all about scope and roles. So I'm just about out of time. So I'd like to say thank you for listening. I hope it's been informative, and I hope at the end of the day, if two of you go sit back and think, I've achieved something.
Great, Paul. Thanks for your clarity on the role of factory managers. That is quite crucial. And then we have few questions. I would like to pick up two questions. Like first one is, who can become the factory manager? This question from Mr. Karnanidhi. His point is whether industrial engineer, production manager, or quality manager, who can be promoted to the factory manager? That's a question.
Okay, yeah. Well, my career path was industrial engineer, production manager, factory manager. That was my career path. So that's one way that it can be done. I would be putting in place, obviously, review systems on all my production management staff and quality management staff, formal appraisals, and I would then be looking at those people, thinking who has got potential to increase. But to me, it doesn't matter what discipline they come from, whether it's industrial engineering or quality management. I'm interested in them as a person, their ability to lead and innovate. I mean, they don't need to have great in-depth knowledge of each discipline, because they should have specialists as part of their team that can input to that. They're there as a leader, a coordinator, a motivator. So to me, it doesn't matter what discipline they come from, as long as they've got those qualities.
Fine, Paul. Thank you for the response. And then next one question I would pick up, like there are a few more questions. I'll just pick up one question. How to address or enhance the knowledge of the subordinate to perform? Because you're saying it's a pack. So the point is, like, as it's a pack, how to ensure everybody under them are performing? How to transfer that knowledge? That's the question.
Right, okay. So you've got a series of people in the pack, each with their own job role. Now, I'm not interested in the individual at the moment. I'm interested in the job role, whether that's industrial engineer, production management, supervisor, quality supervisor, whatever it is. What I would do, first of all, I would draw up a list of the key skills and knowledge that they need. Brainstorm it for that particular role. Right? Then, obviously, I would then do an analysis of each individual against those key skills, against those skills and knowledge. Can they do it? You will then build up a gap. From that, you can then start to develop an individual action plan. And from that, I would then set together a development plan for each individual. You'll probably find commonality between different individuals on the same job role. So you can perhaps do 2 or 3, but that's what I would be doing. I would be individual action plans. And then once again, the factory manager doesn't have to be the one that does the development. Is there another member of the team that can do it? He coordinates, he ensures it happens. Yeah, so I would job role, then individual, find a gap, find the gaps and deal with the gaps.
Fine, Paul. Thank you for the response. We always admire with your answers to the questions, especially. And we got good clarity. I hope everyone got good clarity on the factory manager's roles. But what you have emphasized is more on relationship, people management, leadership. So we are really hopeful like people would go back and get some inputs, and then they would revive their strategy, how they can perform in terms of factory manager. Thank you, Paul, for the wonderful session. And I would like to invite the final guest or final speaker of the today's webinar, Mr. Keerthi. I would like to introduce him with few works. Mr. Keerthi is a qualified and a senior international consultant. He presented PC-based IE strategies to Textile Institute professionals long back in 1995 itself. Keerthi holds MBA in Operations Management. He is a skilled consultant ISO 14000. He was a secretary, Textile Institute of UK Sri Lanka branch. His company's key product is Sue Easy GST Quick Government Suing Data. It is the world's first industrial engineering framework for transparent labor costing, capacity planning, standardization, innovation, suing skills development, and lean manufacturing at manufacturing units and production plants. It is benchmarked on MTM. The SUEC GST work measurement system simplifies and enhances factory management skills, requiring on-time delivery at right quality and cost. So with this small introduction, I would like to welcome Mr. Keerthi Abe to take over the session.
Thank you very much, Nanda. It's great in this lockdown time. It's a great opportunity to meet with the industry. Thank you very much again for organizing this and inviting me.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you.
And also, it's a great opportunity to get to know Mr. Devadas and also my old friend and guru, Mr. Paul Collier. It's very difficult to bring him out of his retirement nowadays. But I am sure some of the participants are now thinking of bringing him all the way down to India, again to his most preferred location. Okay, we'll start. Shall I open my slide presenter?
Yes, please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Hope you can see.
You need to screen share, Mr. Keerthi.
Okay. I will share the screen. Okay, now I am sharing the screen. Okay.
Yes, Mr. Keerthi. You can
Now,
go to the presentation.
Now I will share, open my PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, please.
Right. Thank you so much. You and Ramesh has done a great job putting all this together here. Okay. Right. We are going to discuss increasing labor efficiency in post-pandemic era. I will first present few words about myself so that participants get used to my voice. You can read out what I have done in the most recent past. And I have had the benefit of working with Mr. Paul Collier in sewing operator trainers in Sri Lanka many years back, which I consider great privilege. And my project focus has been like this for the past few years. So let's move on to the subject matter today.
Mr. Keerthi, your presentation is not visible.
My presentation
is not visible. I think you shared some web page.
Okay. Is it now visible?
Yes, now it's visible. Yeah, it's visible.
Is it okay now?
It's better. Yeah.
Okay. So we are going to discuss two things: improving the efficiency and the post-pandemic era. I thought I must mention a few words about the post-pandemic era opportunities for the rest of the world. In USA, there have been a trade war between China, and as a result, some tariffs came into effect, and it has been going on for a couple of years now, and the currently available data is showing that the companies are definitely leaving China, the US companies, and they are this fact has been confirmed by global manufacturing consultancy firm A.T. Kearney, and they have been publishing reshoring index for the past 7 years, and they have very clearly analyzed and found that Vietnam and Mexico has been the biggest benefactors. This I am talking of what has been going on during past few years since the USA introduced new tariffs, which is known as trade war. Now we have a new situation, which is the pandemic. So in this new situation, whole world has come to know depending too much on one country for most of their imports. Probably you are aware that 30% of the global exports are held by the Chinese, and they are known as the world factory now. So with this pandemic, the whole world came to a standstill, primarily due to the health risk of the pandemic. Secondarily, even if the pandemic is stopped today, the halting of supply chain activity during this period will have repercussions all over the world, because everybody has been depending on China for significant portion of the inputs. So this has been a great eye-opener for all the supply chains across the world, and it is going to change the way we trade in the rest of our lifetimes. Japan has already announced that they are putting aside 243 billion yen to incentivize the Japanese companies pulling out of China and going to other locations. All this money is not coming into the apparel industry, but a very small portion is coming into the apparel industry in terms of this incentive. But even if you take the electronics industry, when the electronic industry, a significant portion of Japanese invested in electronic industry comes out to the other parts of the world, that will have impact on apparel manufacturers, because for the workers it will be more attractive to go and work in electronic industry rather than working in the apparel industry. That is the situation in Sri Lanka, at least. So we all have to be prepared for the new world which is going to come after the pandemic. We of course don't know whether the pandemic will end in 1 month, 3 months, 1 year, or 3 years. If you listen to 10 parties, you have all these answers coming from different areas. Some people say it will last couple of years. Some people say that with the introduction of the inoculation, injections, the populace will be able to come out of this situation. So we have to wait and see how that is going to play out. Now, let's just go through some information about the industries affected by this pandemic. I think we all know that retail has been severely impacted, and in Sri Lanka, most of the retail companies are sending their stuff to our doorstep now by way of essential commodities, so that the Sri Lankan people can survive during this lockdown period. But if we take the fashion and apparel trade, it has come to complete stop due to the retail situation in all over the world. Then the travel industry has come to a standstill, and the worst hit are the cruise segment of the travel, because some of those ships had to go back to the origin because most of the countries refused to even help them out in this difficult situation. Then the tourism industry, then the hospitality trade. So all these three segments have had significant slowdown: travel, tourism, and hospitality. If we take them as a single portion of it. Then the automotive industry has come to a halt because in the lockdown, people have no place to travel. And the cinemas are not supposed to be, since the location, since the congestion of people, the people are now supposed to keep at least 1 meter apart. So the cinemas will find it for long time. And the logistics sector, we all know, has come to a halt, and the local transportation, unless it's a matter of essential services like ambulances, security services, and the distribution of food, the rest of the local transport sector has stopped in Sri Lanka, and I guess that is the same case all over the world. Restaurant trade has come, of course, completely affected. Luxury products, live sports, these segments have all come to a stop. Then the real estate sector has to rethink how it is going to happen, whether people are going to hold the currency or the gold or real estate. We have to wait and see what is going to happen. We don't know whether this is going to be just recession for a couple of years, or whether it will end up in a depression. So therefore, we have to wait and see where and how the things are going to evolve during the next 1 or 2 quarters. Oil and gas, we all know that if you buy oil barrel, you can get $25 today, because they can't still stop those oil wells from producing, and it's a long drawn process to stop and restart, and there is a lack of storage facilities. Then the construction industry, people are also out of work, and the people who are into construction are wondering what is the purpose of stopping halfway without finishing it to certain levels. Then the film industry, events and conferences, these industries have got greatly affected. And technology and gadgets, the sales have completely dropped. People can't get out of their homes, and nobody is going to order. I don't see any people in Sri Lanka and many parts of the world ordering through web or other means. Automobile manufacturing and fintech investing also has got very, very badly affected. So that is just some of the industries which has got affected. And the next is, I would like to mention what has changed during this period. We all know that we can't interact with our parents or kids or spouses. So the social interaction has taken a complete new dimension, and work style has changed from office to home. The companies who are working on computers and who has got good internet coverage, being able to move the workforce from office to home. But I don't know how long they will have the same amount of work because of the changes happening in the marketplace. Internet usage has got, it has developed a lot in Sri Lanka, and I am sure in all the parts of the world it is increasing, because it has opened the eyes of the world that contactless work is also having certain benefits, especially in a medical emergency like what we are going through. Then the health consciousness has taken to new heights. We saw a couple of prime ministers, including UK, who took it lightly, had to pay the price and stay out of circulation for certain number of years. Luckily, he came out strong with a brand new kid with his partner. Congratulations to Paul for your Prime Minister's happy occasion. Then the world also has been able to get a very, very big break from the huge pollution we had in certain cities, like in China, the capital city, in India, the capital city. The pollution was unbearable, and now we see a lot of pictures going around with very, very much improvement. And also, if you get out little late in the night, you will enjoy a lot of beautiful stars, twinkling of very beautiful stars. So it's a complete change of situation, and I'm sure people will be able to develop a lot of new models based on what happened during the past 2 months about the effects of pollution in this planet. Then the people have got now new priorities, new business models. The family time has been, it has been beyond our expectation. Now we have to find ways to, continue to enjoy the family time, because we have got too much of it suddenly after decades. Then expenses have dropped. Education model has been changed. Now in Sri Lanka, we have started a couple of additional new TV channels so that people who are staying at home can be educated. I mean, the young generation cannot be stopped. They have to keep occupied, otherwise their mental health and other big issues come up. So we have done a lot of things, and I'm sure in other countries of the world also it has happened. The food choices are also changed, very limited. Entertainment choices are also, and the environment we live in has also changed. So this is what I have noticed mainly as changed areas. So let's finally look at the. So let's now look at the winners. The short-term winners has been the digital products, and because of the economics that a lot of people are predicting that it will move into gig economy, where companies like Freelancer or Fiverr will be doling out a lot of projects out to the industry, out to the world, so that people can work from home and deliver. Stock market investing will be, reporting long gains as soon as the situation change. Home gardening has taken a new drive. We have all started home gardening, and different ways of things have been introduced. Even the people who live in condominiums have gone into their balconies and stacked up gardens. A lot of new photos, interesting ideas are distributed on WhatsApp groups. Then online coaching and teaching has gone to a new height. A lot of people have gone into that area while staying at home, conducting tuitions or teaching new skills. This has taken a new turn. and mental health workers have got a lot of work because of this lockdown situation. And alternate energy sources because of lack of delivery of traditional energy mediums like even oil. People can't go and procure, so the alternate energy sources are being developed. Then the insurance sector is going to now take new impetus from what has happened. Gaming has gained new ground. Healthcare is completely revamping, and there is going to be guaranteed work for many years to come. Affiliate marketing is another segment which has got a lot of momentum in the recent times, including network marketing. And data sciences and spiritual sciences are another two more areas which have gained ground during past 2 months. So I have covered 3 main areas. Now let's discuss about the supply chain we have been working. And generally in supply chain, the digitalization is increasing and it will continue to grow, because that is the only way people can deliver services in a lockdown situation. Everything else which has to depend on face-to-face or on-hand physical presence, they have all disappeared. So even for the foreseeable future, digitalization is the easiest means to survive. So I think it is a definite growth segment which all of us have to find ways to, how our product can be delivered. Even the training aspect, which Nanda, Kumar and Mr. Devadas and Mr. Paul Collier, all of you will be thinking of how you can deliver your training across web browser. I know you will be able to find ways of doing it, because I heard in preparation of this, I talked to some people in Sri Lankan industry, and I found that the brother sewing machine manufacturers are trying to deliver their support services across the web. That is what has come about in the world across the supply chains.
20 minutes finished.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So next, let's look at what is going to change in our segment. I think if the Chinese manufacturing juggernaut is going to slow down, some of the industries like electronics and the white goods will reach other countries. And in that scenario, the apparel manufacturers will have to attract the labor to the apparel industry by making their workplace very much more worker friendly, and apply ergonomic designs and other concepts, which you can see in the online clothing study. They have published a very recent article 4 days back on ergonomic design of workplace in the apparel industry, which I think is a very timely article. And also, if you look around, you will notice that 2000 brands are represented in the organizations in this picture, and they have published new guidelines so that the sustainability of the industry can be ensured. Also, sustainability of the labor force can be ensured. They have gone into a lot of details. They are trying to protect these jobs and protect these workers. So if you want, we can share this information. I'm sure I will be happy to share it with Nanda Kumar if the need arises. So let me now move on to my area of interest. in this situation, obviously, we have to think of how to increase the labor efficiency, because anyway, we were serving a buyer's market. And now on top of that, half of the manufacturers will be challenged in very severe way. I don't think they were ever challenged this hard. So chances are, if half of the manufacturers survive, I will consider it's a great situation for the next 12 months. I don't know what will happen after 1 year, but if half of them can survive within the immediate 12 months, I will consider it as a great achievement of our industry. So let me present some ways where you can improve the labor efficiency, which will be a help for the survival of the manufacturers. I will be covering mainly the secrets of buying, which is very important at this moment. We all know it has been a race downward, as you can see in this picture, people driving down the precipice. So let's see how we can help them by sharing some information at this moment. I think the global value chains will be rethinking what to do. This is what they did last time in 2008. They had a project called Capturing the Gains. And the findings of the Capturing the Gains project was that in the apparel industry, the negotiation of the manufacturing price was not based on the CMT cost. They found that there is absence of labor costing in the apparel industry because it was a buyer's market. So now it is going to worsen, but the advice they have been given is, please apply industrial engineering principles so that you can save the industry, you can serve the workers, and you can avoid things like what happened in Bangladesh a couple of years back by way of Rana Plaza. So with that kind of experience, I think the whole apparel business is open to everybody, and India is just next door, and I'm sure India can gain a lot because of the cotton base. And across the world, even Ethiopia, which has ready supply of cotton, can gain a lot in this situation, and there are many in between who can gain from the current situation. Let's hope that the companies will apply good techniques, for which So Easy being one of the 3 companies identified by the global value chains after the 2008 downturn. They have identified So Easy in Sri Lanka among the 3 industrial engineering firms, and we provide 1 year free training, and we provide free e-learning and certification, and we are geared to provide all these services across the cloud platform. So therefore, all our customers will feel no difference before pandemic or after pandemic. Anyway, we have been fully engaged with the ILO methodology, which has been published in the Introduction to Work Study book, which is known as the Bible for Industrial Engineers. We have been able to work with the global labor leaders, leading global buyers of labor. In the past, we have worked with them and gained a lot of experience. So we will be very happy to roll out immediately our work. So now let me share with you what Paul covered in his presentation. If you notice, he said it is not only the labor, it is the added value. Let me explain this in terms of SMV, which is what we are selling in the apparel business. I think most of you who participate in this presentation will be familiar with the operation bulletin. I am showing the So Easy operation bulletin, which has additional focal point by way of value added percentage. In this operation bulletin, the last column is about the value added percentage. So when we give a report on a style and say this garment would require 11.5 minutes, we also tell you at the same time, in this particular factory, the way they operate, if they make this garment, they have contributed 20% value addition. So if you look at this, operation list one by one, the first operation has a SMV standard minute value or SAM of 0.3796. First operation, the hourly target comes to 158. For the right front hem operation of a shirt, the value addition or the net sewing by the machine operator is 32%. That means sewing to handling ratio of this particular operator is 32%. That means 32% of the time she is doing sewing, and 68% of the time period she is doing handling of the garment. If I were to explain this further, let's say the first operation, front right hem, if it was going to take 100 seconds for the operator to complete, she will do 32 seconds of sewing and 68 seconds of handling. That is how this value added percentage is calculated. Generally, this is known in the industry as needle downtime, NDT, or mullus oxygen in case of Bangladesh, or in terms of value sewing to handling ratio in most of the other parts of the world where the industrial engineering terminology have not come to stay very successfully. But everybody will understand when you say sewing to handling ratio. So what I'm trying to show here is, if you look at these operations, though every operation takes some amount of time, the amount of value addition or the conversion of garment to a sellable product varies from highest 32% in the first operation to the lowest 4% in the seventh operation, label attach.
30 minutes over.
Okay. So you can see in the seventh operation, the value addition is very, very low. So if there was one operator completely dedicated for the label attach job, her salary cannot be justified because her value addition is only 4%. Comparatively, all for the average factory, it is 20%. Hers is only 4%. So that means the other workers will have to work harder, because the buyer will ultimately pay only for the value addition. The buyer is not interested in paying for the handling of garments. They are only paying for the conversion of the garment. So if you can take this point away from today's presentation, I will be very happy. The buyer is paying for the value addition. Let me move on to a few more slides as the time permit. Now, we all have heard that the order quantities have been reducing, right? So if your order quantities have been in 250,000, you will see immediately coming down to hundreds of thousands. If you have been having them in 25,000, you will immediately see them coming down to 15,000 or 10,000 range. If you have been orders in 3,000 range, chances are they will come down to thousands. And your pricing has to be based on your order quantities. And with this agile manufacturing, they are talking of shorter buying seasons, shorter selling seasons, agile manufacturing, quick changeover, no work in progress, lean manufacturing. You can see where the thing is moving, right? So this is another easy point you can take home if you like. And the next point I would like to emphasize is the cost of quality. In the typical manufacturing, whether you manufacture ships, airplanes, electronics, or garments, the cost of quality is supposed to follow a rule called 1-10-100, which means typical manufacturers spend only $1 prevention on the prevention cost. It's very easy to ignore that part. But they will be happy to spend $10 on inspection and correction cost. That you will see in many apparel manufacturing firms, much higher workforce in quality than industrial engineering. And end of the day, if there is any failure, they will be forced to pay hundreds of dollars by way of air freight or discounts or some other clause or that clause or the other clause. But people have been not very conscious of the failure cost from what we have noticed. So this is a time to change. I suggest that you all think of increasing the prevention costs so that you reduce the inspection and corrections and minimize the failures so that there will be some money saved, which will not be visible unless you have very lean accounting systems. If you don't have lean accounting systems, it will be very difficult for you to explain the cost of misinterpretations and misunderstandings. And if you don't know these figures in your companies, please talk to us. We will be very happy to work with you and discuss how very quickly you can come out of this situation. I think we don't have time to show practical costing example. How is the timing, Nanda?
So we have a few minutes. I think we may not have that much time.
Okay, then let me go into the some industrial engineering routines you can start implementing in your organizations. I'm sure most of the people who are taking part today have done their style analysis. The next stage is reducing variances and drawing pitch diagrams from morning to evening, rebalancing the lines from morning to afternoon sessions, and do as much as possible method standardizations, workplace layouts, and increase the usage of work aids so that you can increase the value added ratio from the average worker's day and give a very tight focus on non-productive times. What caused the downtime? Was it the machine breakdowns? Was it the electricity availability? Or was it due to the shortcomings in your supply chain where you were not able to get the some of the needed accessories or fabrics in time? Having done all this, the next stage is simplifying the incentives so that people will know how much they contributed every day. Probably now Paul has been a great promoter of incentives. If I remember right, he said at least weekly incentives is a good way. I'm sure in the new post pandemic era, we may have to go for daily incentives, give something away to the worker daily in the evening so that they know whether they made some difference to the organization. I think these new things we will have to think about. One more area which I just mentioned about the variance in a typical SMV of a garment. Now these are real stories. We have noticed why companies are struggling within the first 2, 3, 4 days. in Sri Lanka, we have worked with some of the manufacturers to bring the expected output from the first day, first hour. And if that doesn't happen, we are taking drastic action, and we are not tolerating this kind of variances in SMVs. If you ask some of our customers. Hydramani, our first customer in Sri Lanka, 1995, they gave me this testimonial in 2001 and said that So Easy has been in use, and they wish everybody, they recommended it to everybody after 6 years of usage. And in 2015, they became world best garment factory. So it was a win-win situation for us and them for a very long time.
So 2 minutes left.
Okay, you probably know that we have done work, given So Easy GSD system across the world to Dubai, Kenya, Fiji, Turkey, Serbia, Kosovo, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, USA, in our ASDA installations, UK in our Debenhams installation. So we have covered all over the world, and we are now delivering it across the cloud platform. We can immediately commission our systems, and we can train people to work on our system within 1 week. And we give 1 year free training by way of our training platform, and it is interactive and suits the trainees' time, not trainers' time. So with that, I can finish my presentation. If you want more information, please visit SoEasyBiz, www.soeasybiz, or contact us on our email, sales@soeasybiz. You can also call us on our phone lines. Reach out to us if you think that you can benefit from our services. May I thank again Nanda Kumar and your team, Ramesh, and my two friends, Mr. Devadas and Mr. Collier. Hi, Paul. Thank you very much. It was great time. It was through Paul I came to know Nanda. So we have done something jointly for the industry today. I am very happy. It is great time. If there is any question, I'll be happy to answer.
Yes, so thank you, sir. Thank you for the wonderful knowledge or thought you gave. And then there are a few questions, sir. We would pick up two questions. One is a general question like, how good can be the garment retail market in Europe and US countries in the future? It's a general question, as you're talking more about the industry. How good it would be the retail market in the near future? That's a question from Mr. Sendilmani.
In the near future, as people are staying home, I have noticed that the segment which is booming is the home textiles. People are staying home and they are noticing a lot of shortcomings in their home textiles. So people are going in, they are trying to at least place the order. So they are working on, revamping their living environment, which is immediately happen to be the home. And since they are not going to work, the fashion is going to be very, very slow for a very long time. People are wondering how long it is going to be, but a home textile segment is definitely showing signs of, very high uptake.
Great, sir. Thank you for the answer. And then another question would be a bit technical. So you are talking about the value-added percentage in your in your So Easy tool. So there is a question from Mr. Raja Sam. How to calculate the value-added percentage in the factory? It's a simple question. How to calculate that value-added percentage?
Let's say if you are using industrial engineering software like Coats GSD or So Easy GSD or any other MTM-based system, the software itself will do the calculation. But if you are doing a stopwatch-based industrial engineering, then you may have to time. You may have to use the stopwatch to time the sewing time find out what is the sewing time of a given operation. Maybe you do 10 cycles of stopwatch studies to find out exactly how much time a worker spent sewing, and then do another stopwatch study to find the time for the complete cycle. Let's say the complete cycle took 1 minute and the sewing time was only 20 seconds, then you know it's 1/3. That means 33%. And the buyer is actually paying for your 33% of sewing time. Buyer is not concerned whether you are using basic lock stitch 555 Juki machine, or whether you use the most modern Brother or Juki or some other Dirkop Adler pocket setter or whatever. They will not bother. They will only pay for the conversion of the fabric to the finished garment. That is the value added time.
Fine, sir. Thank you for the response, sir. And once again, thanks for sharing your thorough knowledge on the industry and suggesting who can be the winners, what are all the way out. And your special emphasis on the value addition would be a great thinking point for everyone. Definitely, I hope that people would go back and think about how they can do the value addition by removing the non-value added activity. Thank you once again, Mr. Keerthi. It was wonderful listening to you.
If you have time, please listen to what Mr. Devadas and Mr. Paul also have to mention on those two questions.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. I think we are running in time constraint, but anyhow, sir, we will just do the summary. Thank you, first of all, for the participants for your entire participation, because it's a quite 2.5 hour session. But I feel you people have grasped a lot of things from the experts. Because to be frank, like Mr. Devadas have been, I think he's putting his mind for last 2 to 3 days. I think I was troubling him a lot, but he helped in getting excellent presentation today. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. And of course, Mr. Paul, I think he would be completely upset with me in this year. Like, I'm just pushing him to do more for the industry. He definitely would be happy, but sometimes would be having certain amount of angry with me. So I'm sorry, Paul, but it was excellent presentation from your side. And Mr. Keerthi, thank you, because you have been busy. I know how busy you are, and then how big you are operating. But in this busy time, you are sparing your time, and then you address to the participants. Thanks to all the allied speakers, and would like to tell you, please take all the learnings. It would be live in the YouTube till this day end. If you want, you can go through it. Then please observe and take your learnings. Think about what can be done better once the pandemic is over. We have to run fast in this situation. The people who are running far and fast would be achieving good results in the future. So we have to have some competitive advantage, as all the allied speakers were sharing. If you have any more queries, feel free to contact us. Definitely we'll connect with the respective allied speakers also if you are quite interested to speak. So it's excellent talking to you once again. Thank you. Please stay safe and have a healthy life. Thank you.